we are going to attempt to make an observatory. All right, this time we're going to start with one of the more plain little birdhouses. I went a little crazy with the drill again and made some cool designs. And at this point I decided, let's do kind of a spacey theme. I of course pulled out the perch because we don't need that, and that's where our little door is going to be. And then we'll have to pull off the bottom too. I had originally just cut a hole into the bottom and thought of putting the candle that way, but I think it's going to be cleaner if I just take the bottom off altogether. With these houses, I kind of let the house speak to me of what it wants to be. And since I did a lot of swirlies and kind of some constellation looks, I was thinking maybe we'll try and do a observatory kind of thing with the telescope. So I just base coated it a brown because I'm thinking I want to go more metallic. So I painted it a dark color, and I found some cool jewels that I think I'll stick in that hole and make a roof out of the leftover popsicle sticks that I have. And I have this, it's a pod, for making coffee. And it was a perfect little dome shape for an observatory. And we'll just fit it on the top there, somehow. I cut a little triangle off the side, relatively to the size of the roof, not quite. And I'm just marking it off so that I know where I don't need to tile for the roofing. And we'll go from there. And did I mention that we're just making this up as we go? This is pretty much how I do things. I had a bunch of leftover just bits and pieces of all these popsicle sticks, and I think they will be perfect roofing material. So we'll just glue them on here in a staggered motion and figure out what color we want to paint it later on. The glue I'm using is the tacky glue, quick dry version, and it is really nice because you don't have to stand there and hold the piece on forever. So it that's a con too, because it dries pretty quicker than regular white glue, I should say. So it should just stick right on. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to just paint the whole thing this bronzy color. I've had this for ages, and I have had this huge jar of metallic paint, and it's one of my favorite colors. And I thought, you know what? This is the direction we're going. We're going all metallics, baby. Ooh, shiny. And now we're going to do the door. Of course, you need something metal, so I used a lid of a cat food can, and I just carefully cut out a door shape. I drilled a hole because that's right where the perch was, remember? So I figured, you know what, let's use this to our advantage. I found a bunch of washers and nuts and bolts, and I'm going to put that right there so that the light shines through, and then I'll put the little washer on there kind of as a little porthole. And I found a cool bead for the door handle. Now, one thing about doing different projects with different materials, now anything with plastic and metals, I always use a super glue kind of formula. And anything with wood, paper, cloth, you can use your white glue types. It just works better that way, and especially with metals, you kind of need a stronger glue. And I have this thick gel-like super glue that works pretty great, and especially with metals and plastics. We'll just glue the door in place. With these metals, make sure you be extra careful because they are sharp edges, and you're going to notice that my fingers get more and more and more dirty, or painted I should say, as we go. That's just the way I work. The messier the better, I say. Now that I know in my head the direction I want to go, I'm going to start painting the roof tiles. And I have this metallic silver, so we're going to make it like it's a metal roof, kind of. We're going a little more whimsical with this one, and we'll just paint them all silver. I also painted my little coffee pod the same bronze color, and I'm going to try to attempt to make a telescope. And I just cut a piece of a ballpoint pen, the outer, and I'm going to put it in a wonky angle on purpose so it kind of looks a little more whimsy. And I drilled a hole just the same size as the pen, and I'm going to jam it through there very carefully because everything's sharp edges, and put tapes at the joints so it kind of looks like it's welded, and then we'll put masking tape at the top so it kind of looks like the top lens piece. At least that's the goal. It kind of looks like a chimney too. It could go either way, I guess. there you go. It's kind of taking shape. I like using this tape as joints, and especially if you're doing like it's supposed to look like a metal strapping and things like that. Once you paint it all one color, it all comes together. And I wish I could have found a bead, like a clear bead for the very end to really give the illusion of a telescope, but you know what? It is what it is. And here I decided I'm going to paint each of these lines in black, and then I'm going to put little dots for rivet points. So all the little screws and things that might have taken place when you built this little observatory dome. Now when I tried fitting this, it didn't quite fit right. So what I did is I took a little bit of clay and just kind of puttied it in and squished it onto the roof. It actually worked because it kind of looks like welding points once you're done, and then you just paint the clay parts to match and you're good. And now we're gonna deal with this window. I cut a piece of wire and fit it right inside the hole because my glass bead is just a little bit smaller than this hole, so it would fall right through. So I tried to think of something that would fill the hole, and this wire was perfect. So I glued the wire in, and then I glued the bead in. And I also had some of these tacks left over, and I thought these are perfect to decorate our house. Anything metal, anything kind of industrial looking, I put on here. I also found a bunch of these nuts, so I figured, you know what, let's stick them on the front. You can never have too much decoration, in my opinion. And this is where we start building a little story in our head. I'm thinking like a little scientist guy lives here, and he's found these crazy stones, and he built his little laboratory right where all the stones are, and he wants to research where they came from, so he built a telescope. You know, these little things go through your head as you're building. So I want his landscape to be probably where it's kind of a little more mysterious, a little more alien looking, and we're going to put our leftover glass beads around because, you know, that's where he's mining these things, and a little more a strange terrain. Here I'm just building up a border because I want this house to be kind of just freestanding, not glued to the board. So I'm going to build a little stand for it to go into so that if you try to knock it or anything, it doesn't go all over the place. A little more stable, I guess. And now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of jam it into the clay so it'll give an impression of the house, so it'll fit just right where I want it to go. Because we're going to put a candle there, and you want to be able to take the house up and down as you'd like to turn the candle on and off without destroying the whole thing also. And once we got kind of where we want things to be, I'm just going to fill it all in with our jewels and more rocks from my gravel driveway. And I just want it to make it more, as much alien looking, kind of a strange but cool looking place that a scientist really wants to explore and look at, and just keep adding and adding and adding. At this point, it kind of looks like a little gingerbread house, little candies and things like that, and that's fine too. But I decided I wanted to mossify my house before I get too far, and just add glue in random spots. I had just enough moss to put a little on the roof and over the door and windows. With these smaller projects, I really try to use just what I have on hand. So it makes your mind go a little more creative, I think. So it's like, I only have so many of this piece and so many of this piece. What am I going to make from it, kind of thing. And I think you get a lot more creative when you restrict just how many things you have. Of course, I love doing the huge projects where sky's the limit. But these little ones, it gets you your creative juices going, I think. I have a lot of this stringy little moss stuff, so I thought I'd put a few vines on the side, just a little bit, to get a little more of that greenery going. I like the mix of industrial with nature kind of aspect, so I'm going kind of that route. Now I had run out of moss and grass for my static machine, but I have tons of sawdust. And I saw at one time a guy had creatively made moss from sawdust. He just put mixed paint with sawdust. And I'm going to give that a try and see what happens. First, we're going to paint our base, of course, because I'm not sure how much is going to show through. So I just painted it the same color as my piece of wood. So here we go with our experiment. I'm gonna just put some sawdust down and I'm gonna glop the paint in it. I tried mixing it with a stirring stick kind of thing. I ended up that the best way to mix this stuff is just with your hands. It's all water-based, so it just washes off anyway. But it did make a really cool texture, I thought. It was very mossy-like, and I think I'm going to do this in the future. Maybe try some different colors and things like that. It's definitely a cheaper option than buying moss. Yeah, I think it turned out great. So I'm going to try gluing it on just like I do with any other grass or moss. Just put glue everywhere you want moss to go. And it stuck pretty good. Afterwards, I also did a clear coat over the top just to lock it in, because I wasn't sure if this is going to just all fall off, and I got a little paranoid. But it gives a great texture, I thought. And constantly throughout this thing, I just kept thinking that orange glass bead just looked like a fried egg. It still does to me. Yeah, and there you go. I just had to clean it up a little bit. I have this old brush that's just fallen to pieces, but it's a tried and true good brush to clean up glue and things, and I keep it nice and clean. This dried really nice, actually, and once I put the clear coat spray paint on it, it's a little more crunchy, but it stayed in place. I also had some of this baby's breath, and I just cut it down to make it look like little bushes and tried to stick it where the clay is and the glue, and it all fits together, at least it should, just right. And there it is, our little science laboratory, checking out what's going on with all these little moonstones. So he's gonna look in his observatory and look to the skies and see where they came from, or whatever story you want. Anyway, I think it turned out pretty cool. I like the steampunky kind of look. It's really hard to photograph, but it does look really, really cool. and the moss kind of gives it just enough little drabness, like it's in a desolate kind of deserty kind of place where these stones fall down. But when you put the candle in there, it just lights up just right, like something mysterious is going on inside. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one and maybe got your creativity going in your brain. And if you like it, of course, give me a like. That would be great. And subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, thank you very, very, very much. I love all the support, and I got a lot of ideas in my brain, and we'll see what comes up next. Bye.